Can I propose that you chair?
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, I second that.
Thank you very much. I will now deal with the following items. Housekeeping. Firstly, I or the clerk will read out the housekeeping notice regarding.
Thank you, Chair. Please note that this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the Council website for a minimum of 6 months. For those in the room, please note that as the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point along Brady Road under the flyover. Finally, please can we ensure that background noise is kept to a minimum and mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. This includes turning off microphones and turning down the volume on laptops. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any apologies?
None received.
Thank you. Subcommittee, do we have any declarations of interest regarding these cases?
None from me.
No. And that's none for me also. We have a protocol for public speaking at hearings. This was included with the agenda sheet for noting. And we will move on to item 5, application for a premises licence at Premier One Bank Chambers, Penhill Avenue, Poole. The licensing authority has received an application for a new premises licence for the premises known as Premier at the aforementioned address. This matter is brought before the licensing subcommittee for determination. I will now ask each participant to introduce themselves and state their role.
Councillor Sandra Moore, I'm a member of the subcommittee.
Councillor Mark Howell, member of the subcommittee.
Councillor Alistair Keddy, member of the subcommittee, chair of the subcommittee. Councillor Richardson will be joining us as a reserve member, not required to participate, and will be observing for training purposes. Councillor Richardson will not be taking part in the hearing or the deliberations. We are also joined by Sarah Rogers, our licensing officer. Sarah. Michelle Cutler, our clerk to the subcommittee. Mary Almeida, our legal advisor to the subcommittee. Philip Day, solicitor representing the applicant. And I understand that the applicant is unable to attend this morning.
Yes, thank you, sir. Unfortunately, there was a very sudden family bereavement on Monday. His sister-in-law, so he's had to go to London to support his wife and family. So his apologies.
Those apologies are noted and accepted, and I would like to offer my and the subcommittee's condolences.
Thank you. I'm sorry, can I just mention Jackson Warrener, who sits behind me, is one of our staff. He will be an apprentice solicitor as from Monday and is also here for training purposes.
Welcome, Jack. I note that we have received an objection from Councillor Oliver Waters, who is unable to attend. We will go through his objection in due course. Before I run through the procedure, please may I check that all persons who have given notice of their intention to speak have been identified, and any person who wishes to withdraw a representation or wishes not to speak has been identified. It's quite a straightforward one, so isn't it? If there are no comments, I will take this as correct. I will now explain the put my teeth in. I will now explain the proposed procedure and order of speaking for the hearing as follows. The licensing officer will present their report. Questions of the licensing officer by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. The applicant will make their application. Questions of the applicant by all parties, members of the subcommittee to go first. We would normally then invite those making representations to speak. However, Councillor Waters has advised that he's not attending today, so we will consider Councillor Waters' written representation. All parties will be given an opportunity to sum up, with the party who spoke last to go first. The hearing will then conclude. The subcommittee will deliberate in private with legal advisor and clerk present. Notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing was held. The notification of decision will include information about the right of appeal as appropriate. I will now ask all parties to confirm agreement on the proposed procedure or make representations. Unless anyone indicates otherwise, I will take this as confirmed. Thank you. Please may I remind all parties speaking not to repeat the information which they have already given in writing, but to expand on their written representations. All questions are to be asked through the chair, and there will be no cross-examination of parties. I will now ask the licensing officer to present their report.
Thank you. An application has been made to permit off sales of alcohol from 7 AM to midnight each day of the week. These premises were previously licensed by the Co-op for off sales until August 2023, when the license was surrendered by them. Those premises were licensed from 8 AM to 11 PM Monday to Saturday and 10 AM to 10:30 on Sundays. Councillor Walters, Ward Councillor for Pen Hill, has made a representation on the grounds of crime and disorder, public nuisance and public safety licensing objectives. Mediation was offered by the applicant, but you'll see from the email thread that attempts by Mr. Day and the licensing officer to engage with Councillor Walters was to no avail, and he has confirmed, as you've heard, he's unable to attend today. You will have to rely on his written submissions when considering your decision. No representations were received from any other responsible authority or any other person. Should this application be granted and the applicant fails to operate in accordance with the licence and the terms and conditions attached to it, they will be aware that any responsible authority or any other person could request a review at any time. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the subcommittee, do we have any questions for the licensing officer? Councillor Howell.
Yes, there seems to be some confusion between the objector and perhaps yourself about confusing the wrong words, disagreements maybe, as to the general licensing hours of similar premises in the area. There certainly seemed from, I think, from the council's response that there are varied closing times for such establishments in the area. Perhaps you could explain why that has arisen, whether that's out of policy or the applicant's particular choices, or as to how they frame their applications.
Yeah, it's certainly not a policy. Each application would have been dealt with individually, and they would have made their application based on what they required and what was determined at the time. I mean, these premises are legacy pool, which I'm not personally familiar with, but they look like the times that they've applied for and been granted.
Councillor Moore.
No questions at this time, thank you.
I have no questions at this time either. Okay, moving on. The applicant is invited to make their application.
Thank you, sir. I think I can take it very briefly. I'm not quite sure why the Co-op surrendered its licence, but it looks as if that licence dates back a number of years. And under the 1964 Licensing Act as amended, the hours for off licences were set out in there, and the hours on the old Co-op licence exactly match what would have been the case as long ago as 1964, and certainly all the way up until 2005. It would appear that that licence was simply converted and nobody applied to vary it, whereas the other premises in the locality at different times. Different people have made successful applications to vary right up until, well, in some cases, 24 hours a day. Not that they actually make use of that. The co-op did close down. Not quite sure why they surrendered the license, probably to avoid paying an annual fee. It would have been a bit easier had they not done so, then we could have simply got a transfer and got on with it. But as we've had to apply for a new license, and with one eye on to commercial viability of these premises, bearing in mind that he's taking on something that had closed down, we've sought slightly longer hours. Put together a fairly comprehensive list of conditions that you will have seen. One tiny typo on my part under section M, prevention of crime and disorder, incident recording. I put all crimes reported to the venue. It's not a venue, it's premises. So a slight correction there. But other than that, I think if I say anything more, then I'll be repeating what's already gone in writing. I simply invite you to grant the application as applied for. But here to answer any questions if I can assist you further.
Thank you. Subcommittee members, would you like to ask questions of the applicant?
No, I don't have any questions.
Councillor Moore.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so the applicant wants 7 until midnight on 7 days a week. Has he got any more experience of running these sort of premises?
The short answer to that is yes. The family have a number of premises, both locally and elsewhere, and he's been in the business for a number of years. So the answer is yes.
I have an additional question along similar lines. Whilst the applicant has held licenses for other premises, have they had any problems with those existing premises?
No, it's the short answer. And I'm sure that had there been issues, they would have been brought to your attention by the police and quite possibly the licensing officers.
Are you aware if any of the licenses held have been brought in for review at any point?
Yes, I'm aware, and the answer is no.
Okay. At this point, if there are no further questions, we would normally invite those making representations to speak. However, Councillor Waters has advised he's not attending today, so we will consider Councillor Waters' written representation, which I have in front of me. I'll read that out for the benefit of the applicant and the subcommittee. From Councillor Oliver Waters. Dear Ellie and the licensing team, I want to provide a representation against the application above for Premier Penhill on the aforementioned address to provide supply of alcohol off sales Monday to Sunday from 0700 to midnight on the following licensing objectives: prevention of crime and disorder, prevention of public nuisance, public safety. Late night sales will increase the availability of alcohol on Penhill Avenue and could lead to an increase in crime, aggressive behaviour and transient noise, causing disturbance to those living nearby. I would request that the alcohol licence is limited to 22:30 Sunday to Thursday, 2300 Friday and Saturday, in line with other off-sale licences in the ward. Kind regards, Councillor Oliver Waters, Penhill. At this point, I would be asking the question of the applicant directly, their understanding of the licensing objectives to ensure that they had really digested and understood how to apply them to this particular circumstance. I do know we're unable to do this at this point, and I also know the reasons why. In terms of the timings and the consent of Councillor Oliver Waters' email, is the applicant aware of any issues within the close proximity of the premises?
Short answer to that is no. The co-op was there for many years, and I'm not aware that there were any problems there. Can I just also make the point that there is nothing in this situation to prevent these premises from actually being open until way beyond midnight if they chose to do so. What we're only concerned about here is the terminal hour for the provision of alcohol. And as you will have seen from the response that I and your officers, in particular Ms. King, gave to Councillor Walters, I think he's misunderstood the situation in that there are already a number of other premises that are licensed until midnight, and in some cases 3 a.m. And in a couple of cases 24 hours, including the Tesco and the Star Off license. Well, the Star Off license, to be completely fair, our understanding is that even though it's got a 24-hour license, it doesn't use it, and it shuts at midnight normally.
Thank you. Subcommittee, do we have any further questions regarding the representation made by Councillor Waters?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just trying to understand where the objector's coming from here. And can you just confirm that the extra, the late night part of it is not causing a problem in this particular area, to your knowledge?
As far as I know, and as far as Mr. Bulbul is aware, no, there aren't any issues. And really, you should take your lead from the police on that. That if they had concerns about crime and disorder in particular, then they would have made a representation. And there is
I appreciate what you're saying, that we haven't got any objection from the police, but I was just thinking of the local knowledge. Well, whether there was any issue, and you're confirming that there isn't, basically.
Correct. And I think that the important thing to note about Councillor Waters' representation is the use of the word could. You, of course, have to make your decision on an evidence base. There is a presumption in favour of grant as applied for, subject only to conditions that are consistent with the licensing objectives. And in my respectful submission, there is no evidence to suggest that any of the licensing objectives would be undermined if this were to be granted.
Thank you for your confirmation.
Councillor Howell.
Yeah, I think just for completeness, we should ask the same question of the licensing officer, that whether there have been any complaints or aware of any disturbances.
No, none at all.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions around Councillor Waters' representations? Thank you. We will move on. At this stage, all parties are given the opportunity to sum up, and we will start with the party who spoke last. Given that it was a written submission for Councillor Waters, I think we will step back. So that would be the applicant.
You'll be pleased to know I don't propose to say a word.
Thank you, sir. Then we will ask our licensing officer to sum up.
I've got nothing further to add, thank you.
In that case, if there are no further comments or representations, we will call the hearing to a close and conclude. The subcommittee will deliberate in private with our legal advisor and clerk present. Notification of the subcommittee's decision will be given within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing was held. I'll pass, our legal counsel will now clarify the right of appeal.
Thank you. If members decide to determine the application or attach conditions to the licence in a way which the applicant or those making representations do not agree to, then those parties may appeal to the Magistrates' Court within a period of 21 days, beginning with the day such parties are notified in writing of that decision.
I believe we are concluded for deliberation.
Thank you, Chair. I'll now end the live stream.